Crisis bancaria mundial. Bueno, mi nombre es Rodolfo Barrientos Boza, 15 de enero del 2019. Rodolfo Barrientos Boza. Hace unos 20 años escribí una novela llamada Pánico Bancario Mundial. Hackers Mate. Pero la misma es una novela de acción de estafadores que lograron robar millones de dólares en todo el mundo. Sin embargo, nunca me imaginé toparme con un caso real que está a punto de suceder. Y la fuente es tan confiable que uno de los mejores expertos mundiales de finanzas realmente cuenta lo que va a suceder. Y en realidad mi novela es prácticamente nada a eso que viene al mundo. Y encaja perfectamente con las profecías y sobre todo con el tercer sello del apocalipsis de la crisis económica mundial y con la marca anunciada en el capítulo 13. Uno de los hombres más inteligentes de la actualidad y sagaz, sin duda, es el señor presidente de Rusia, Vladimir Putin. Cuando recibió el gobierno de Boris Yeltsin, le dejó una gran tarea de reconstruir la economía y el comercio de su país, así como el poderío militar que cuenta hoy día. Él en el 2011 explicaba que, o más bien denunciaba, la forma de operar de los Estados Unidos de América con respecto al dólar. Decía que cuando se encontraba en crisis, lo que hacía era financiarse con bonos del tesoro que eran respaldados con la máquina de imprimir miles de millones de dólares de la Reserva Federal y que luego esos dólares los distribuía por todo el mundo. Protestaba que era una forma perversa de mantener el dominio sobre el mundo. Y en parte tenía mucha razón. De hecho, nuestros países tercermundistas siempre han hecho esa práctica de imprimir billetes a corto plazo, pero luego se convierte en una avalancha. Sin embargo, siempre aparados al dólar, ¿verdad? Porque hemos dependido de eso. Esta práctica la inició el presidente Richard Nixon porque antes dichos dólares tenían que estar respaldados con oro. Sin embargo, a partir de que hizo un trato con Arabia Saudí, con el petróleo, logró establecer el dólar que se manejara sin necesidad de respaldarlo con monedas de oro. Pero lo que está a punto de explotar a Norteamérica, no solo a Norteamérica, sino al mundo entero, se los voy a explicar. De hecho, hace unos días el presidente Putin se deshizo de 100.000 millones de dólares. Y si lo hizo él, deberíamos de hacerlo todos. No hace falta. En verdad es mucho más grave y lo que estoy a punto de contarles. Las élites financieras mundiales van a ocupar solo 48 horas para congelar todos los bancos a nivel internacional y las cuentas de valores de todo el mundo, donde millones de personas perderán acceso a su dinero y en algunos casos para siempre. Y el que controle el dinero controlará nuestras vidas. Uno de los más grandes gestores de activos llamado BlackRock, solo gestor directamente gestiona 6 billones con B de dólares en activos y supervisa más de 10 billones de dólares en su plataforma. Eso significa que controla más dinero que el Producto Interno de China, Japón y Rusia y todos juntos. Pero hay una red que es más poderosa que esto, dominando a estos gestores de crédito. Va a ser una de las más manejadas por el Club Bilderberg también. Es una red de individuos posicionados en las principales instituciones financieras del mundo, como el Banco Mundial, el FMI, la Reserva Federal de Estados Unidos, los bancos centrales del G20. Vea que G20, G viene de los masones, de la letra de los masones, y las Naciones Unidas y el Banco Mundial de Asentamientos, con el fin de imponer el nuevo orden mundial. Así dice el señor Jim Rickarson. Un gobierno, lo que quieren es, un gobierno, o la visión que tienen es establecer un gobierno mundial, una moneda digital mundial, un impuesto mundial, una corte mundial, un ejército y una policía mundial, un comercio mundial y una religión mundial. En fin, han manipulado las leyes financieras tributarias internacionales. Este empresario economista estadounidense, Rick Jacobson, influyente y conocedor, además de asesor de varios presidentes de Norteamérica como Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, George Bush, también trabajó en la Reserva Federal, la CIA y otros organismos. Él nos advierte sobre esta red de élite de empresas financieras más poderosas del mundo y van a quitar el respirador artificial del sistema financiero global. Esto provocará que todos los ciudadanos del mundo pierdan el acceso al dinero casi en instante. No se permitirá el acceso o salida del efectivo ni por banco, cajero automático ni transacción, sin la autorización o aprobación de dicha red. Dice que estamos a punto de experimentar radicalmente una nueva clase de crisis que congelará el sistema financiero y nos llevará al caos global. Y esa red de élite usará esta crisis económica para cubrirse en cuestión de minutos, para que en cuestión de minutos y al instante y permanentemente desaparecerán billones de dólares en todo el planeta. Y cientos de millones de personas serán separadas de su propio dinero. A continuación, un extracto de sus declaraciones.
You may know BlackRock is now the largest asset manager on the planet. It directly manages $5 trillion in assets, and it oversees another $11 trillion through its Aladdin platform. That means one firm controls more money than the GDPs of China, Russia, and Japan combined. A few people on Wall Street. Soon I was on a plane for a series of meetings to London, to Geneva, back to New York, then down to South America. As I began connecting the dots, a pattern emerged. It revealed a network of more than 189 individuals positioned inside the world's major financial institutions. Some of them hold senior positions inside the IMF, World Bank, and every central bank in the G20, including our own Federal Reserve. These elites share one vision, and they're about to make it a reality. That vision is one world order, one world taxation, and one world money. They've worked for years behind the scenes preparing to realize that vision. They've literally rigged the laws of international finance. Everything is basically in place right now, and there's essentially no way to stop this from happening. When the crisis hits, they'll flip the switch, freezing the global financial system. That will give them time to reset the world economy according to their vision. As the coming crisis unfolds, President Trump will be powerless to stop it. In fact, trying to stop them would probably weaken the president's power altogether.
That is amazing, Jim, really. So what did these elites want from your contact at BlackRock?
Basically, they want to classify BlackRock as too big to fail. The technical term is Systemically Important Financial Institution, or SIFI. That designation normally applies to banks, such as Bank of America. If your bank gets the SIFI label, it means the government will bail you out first in a crisis. But it also means you must turn over control of your bank until the crisis subsides. In this case, they're trying to reclassify BlackRock, an asset manager, as too big to fail. If they succeed, they'll be able to freeze BlackRock when the crisis hits. BlackRock clients won't be able to sell. They won't be able to buy either. Their accounts will go dark indefinitely. And the elite operatives will take control of BlackRock's assets remotely via the internet. But our research shows that their ICE 9 plan goes much, much deeper than that.
Now, you refer to their plan as ICE 9. You just said that. What does that mean?
It's a reference to the Kurt Vonnegut novel, Cat's Cradle. In the book, a mad scientist creates a new form of water molecule called ICE 9. When it comes in contact with other water molecules, it freezes them at room temperature. One drop of ICE 9 can freeze the whole ocean. And that's what these elite operatives are about to do to the world economy.
Now, can you share with our viewers exactly who these operatives are and what their ultimate goal might be?
Like I said, John, more than 189 elite agents have slowly wormed their way into leadership positions across the board. They now sit at or near the head of the IMF, the World Bank, and even our own Federal Reserve. They also control much of what happens at the central banks of China, Russia, India, Brazil, Canada, and Europe. As you know, these institutions form a kind of global superstructure. It forms a kind of snare net encircling all nations. Their leaders aren't democratically elected. They're not accountable to you and me. They're beyond the reach of government and citizens, and yet they hold the fate of the global financial system in their hands. To get a sense of how they operate, imagine an array of floating spheres. One sphere is labeled IMF, one is labeled Fed, one is labeled Bilderberg, one is labeled Wall Street, one is labeled central banks, one is labeled intelligence agencies, one is labeled media, and so on. The elites inhabit all of these spheres, and together the network forms a kind of 3D Venn diagram. As I see it, regardless of what sphere they inhabit, the elites all share the same vision: one world order, one world taxation, and one world money. All of their actions are geared toward moving that agenda forward.
Now, are you able to share the identities of these elites with our viewers?
We've identified more than 189 individuals who are in many cases hiding in plain sight. Regardless, they all share the same vision: one world order, one world taxation, and one world money. A short list would include Christine Lagarde, Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, IMF; Mark Carney, Governor of the Bank of England; Raghuram Rajan, Vice Chairman of the Bank for International Settlements; Haruhiko Kuroda, Governor of the Bank of Japan; William C. Dudley, President of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York; Agustin Carstens, Governor of the Bank of Mexico; Janet Yellen, Chairman of the Board of the Federal Reserve System; Mario Draghi, President of the European Central Bank; Zhu Min, former Deputy Managing Director of the IMF; Zhou Zhiuquan, Governor of the People's Bank of China; Robert E. Rubin, Chairman of the Council on Foreign Relations. This A-list of central bankers and other elites is just the tip of the iceberg. Of course, not one of these elites will tell you outright what's going on, but I've seen and heard enough to connect the dots for myself. Not long ago, for example, I met with one of their senior operatives. He's the leading economist who served as the chairman of the Federal Reserve during the last crisis. He's considered one of the most influential minds in banking today. We met privately during a conclave in Seoul, South Korea. Of course, I'm talking about Ben Bernanke. I came away from my meeting with him stunned and convinced that ICE 9 was real. Not long before that, I set up a one-on-one meeting with another member of the network. His name is Zhu Min, the former deputy governor of China's central bank. Until recently, he served as deputy managing director of the International Monetary Fund. Zhu is a brilliant guy, like Bernanke, and he's pleasant and well-meaning. There's no doubt in my mind that he's also a member of the elite network preparing to impose ICE 9 on millions of Americans. But I wasn't done with my research. I have since met with dozens of senior officials, intelligence analysts, and former Wall Street colleagues. My quest led to a final meeting, a face-to-face summit with the head of Bilderberg. We met at Rockefeller Center in Manhattan, and he was very eager to get my take on the euro as a currency. I was happy to provide it, of course, in exchange for some valuable intelligence. As I say in my new book, he did not have horns. In fact, he gave me a nice gift when we parted ways, a blue Swedish vase. I keep it in my writing studio at my home in Connecticut. But my point is, I came away from all three meetings convinced of one thing. When the next crisis hits, the elites are planning to freeze the financial system, and they'll replace it with a new system, one not based on the U.S. dollar. When that happens, we'll wake up to a very strange and disturbing new reality.
And for our viewers that are watching today, what might their reality look like that morning? How does this manifest?
First, they'll have gone to bed knowing that a massive financial crisis was underway. But when they wake up, they'll find it has worsened and the contagion has spread worldwide. When they go to withdraw money, their ATM will say, closed temporarily. When they go to sell stocks, their account will say, transaction not available. When they go to their local business, that business will only accept cash if it's open. As citizens realize they're being barred from their money, riots will erupt. It's going to get really bad really quickly.
How would such a freeze actually work? And wouldn't that be highly illegal?
Well, it wouldn't be illegal technically because they've been quietly laying the groundwork for years. They rigged the financial laws, changed the rules of the game to allow this to happen. The stage is set. They have the levers in place. The lights are positioned. Now someone just needs to flick a switch and they'll impose ICE 9 rapidly. And again, all of this will be legal because they rigged the system in their favor. Here in the U.S., for example, Congress pushed through something called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEPA. This allows the government to freeze accounts, assets, even whole institutions at will. The only condition is that there's some threat to national security with a foreign connection. Of course, with a global market, every financial crisis has a foreign connection. Any systemic crisis fits the bill. And the thing is, when the next crisis hits, it's going to be so bad, President Trump won't have any choice but to go along with the elite's plan.
Wow. That is, you have to admit, that sounds somewhat hard to believe. Now, how could these operatives actually freeze a whole country's financial system?
Well, fortunately, we have some recent real-life examples to study. The elites have been conducting a series of dry runs for years, leading up to ICE 9. Look at Cyprus, for example. A few years ago, the Cypriot economy was in trouble, especially the banks. The IMF stepped in and loaned Cyprus $10 billion, but the loan came with strings. Now pay attention because this is precisely what they're going to do. But imagine it on a global scale. So in exchange for the capital injection, the IMF demanded control over the Cypriot banking system. More specifically, the IMF froze the entire system, literally every bank in the country. And they did that to ensure the IMF's demands were met, including strict capital controls. So how did all this impact regular citizens? Their local ATMs went dark. Even the bank branch was closed, permanently in some cases. Citizens could not withdraw cash. They couldn't even transfer funds from one account to the other. What came next? Wealth extraction on a grand scale. The IMF basically stole 6 to 10% of all the cash in the Cypriot bank accounts. How did the elites justify this? They called it a levy, the price regular citizens had to pay for their government's missteps. Keep in mind, these asset confiscations were done at the balance sheet level with the institutions themselves. They never had to confiscate individual accounts. They froze every account by controlling a handful of the country's biggest banks. When the next crisis hits, we're going to see this here in the U.S. and around the world. And it'll be a highly coordinated global attack on the entire system simultaneously.
All right, but hold on here. Wasn't Cyprus a fairly isolated example of the globalist elites taking over a nation's banking system?
Not even close, John. The same thing has happened in other places. It's happening in Greece right now. As you know, Greece has been navigating a massive debt crisis for years. In 2015, the IMF and their partners moved in to recapitalize Greece's banks. That just means they agreed to pump capital back into the stalled system, like priming a pump. In return, the IMF demanded control of the banks and citizens' individual accounts by default. Suddenly, Greek families weren't allowed to withdraw more than $460 per week. Imagine trying to pay your mortgage, gas, and groceries on less than $500, let alone your medical insurance. Of course, it led to widespread panic, rioting, and worse. And that's exactly what we'll see on a global scale when the next crisis.
¿Quieren asesoría en qué quieren entonces ustedes invertir su dinero y su vida? Pregúntenme. Rodolfo Barrientos Boza para servirles. Encantado. Hasta luego.